the first time at the super high level that you see here to understand what is a generic model of a data request process. Some schools might have a very formal process where you're submitting forms and it's going through a workflow and it's getting sign-off and approval. Some schools may have a very informal process. I pick up the phone and I call, Joe in IT, and he produces that report. And either in an informal process or formal process, these steps happen. Might be through one person or 5 people or whatever, but we're going to talk about that. So let's start off. So a general effort here is that there's an initial inquiry about a data. So someone is, wants to, has some question. They want to know how many faculty members do I have who are teaching English, or how many students do I have in my English department? Let's take that. First thing they might want to do is to find out, is there already a report for this? Does this information exist? Maybe I can produce. Maybe I have some self-service ways I can produce this. But to do that, they need to sort of understand this information. How are we counting people? What are we? What assets exist for me to do that? So there's this sort of initial step before they sort of submit any request, where they're trying to think about how they might be able to do it themselves or find information that already exists. If they can't find that, then the next step is to go ahead and make some sort of request, right? So that might be submitting a ticket or calling someone or maybe even building it themselves, but they're going to start this process. A part of that is that there's this sort of analysis and research that comes in. So figuring out what does this report look like, right? What are the items on it? What are the data definitions within these things? Like building the requirements and building the spec of the thing that you're going to do. Now, this may happen again at some schools entirely informally, or even not on paper. Like if this is a person doing their own thing, they're making these assumptions themselves. Ideally, though, you want to have this process where this is getting documented either as a ticket or a requirement to go out to somebody who's completing this, or if you're doing it yourself, you're just going to write down. Once this sort of analysis is done to figure out how am I going to pull this information, then you go build it, right? So that might be in a reporting tool. It might be just writing a query or whatever. So there's the report development. It might be a one-time question, or maybe something you're building to be repeated over and over again. And then there's the report delivery. So, and that might be, I called up Joe and I asked him how many students were in the English department, and he called me back and he said 50, right? So that's this process in a very simple way. There's some weaknesses in that in that approach. And then lastly, there's sort of this process repeats, right? So I like to say good reports produce more questions than answers, right? So 50, really? Because that doesn't seem like not that many. Well, what's the breakdown on that? Or 50, last year we had 60. Is that true? How's the trend going? So there's all sorts of if you're providing lots of information, it's going to produce more questions. So that's the general overview of the life cycle of a data request in either formal or informal process.